Hey, welcome. Happy Monday. Okay, so if you can sit today, that would be wonderful. If you can't sit, that will hopefully also be wonderful. But if you can, please do. We'll do a little bit of exploration of what it is to sit. So if you can't sit reasonably, then if possible, in that case, lie on your back. If you can't do that either, then that's okay. But if you're lying, then please imagine that you're sitting. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll see if you get longer. So close the eyes. And let's become aware of the bones of the body. So why would we want to be aware of the bones? Because the bones, perhaps you've noticed, the bones are hard. So the bones, you might know what a cairn is. It's a stack of rocks. So the bones are kind of like a cairn. Because there's a hardness, there's a firmness that allows them to stack in that way. So you could become aware of your spine actually in that sense. Imagine your spine like a cairn, like a stack of stones, so that the stack of vertebrae, the stack of the bones of the spine is balanced so that there's no need for you to exert any effort to keep it aligned or to keep it vertical or to keep yourself from falling over, because the stack of the bones is able to maintain itself. So become aware of the pelvis. So you're either sitting or you're imagining that you're sitting. So whether real or imagined, you can be aware of the pelvis on the surface that you're sitting on. And you can be aware that the pelvis has a right side and a left side. So there's a right side of the pelvis that is in contact with the surface that you're on, at least through the flesh. But we're letting the flesh be as soft as possible so that you can be aware of the bones of the pelvis on the right side and on the left side. And you can be aware of how the weight is distributed on the right side and the left side. So is the right side and the left side, are they balanced? Do they feel even? So if you imagine, again, this cairn, this stack of stones, that base stone has to be resting solidly, or the other stones that are stacked atop it won't stand a chance of being balanced. So here our pelvis is like that base stone. So be aware of that pelvis in that sense and let it come to rest. And what is it that prevents it from coming to rest? So be aware of what is happening in the soft tissue around the pelvis, below the pelvis, in the buttocks. Now, you can be aware of the coccyx, which is called tailbone. So it's the lowermost vertebrae, and it's between the two sides of the pelvis. So you can be aware of that. And you can then start to become aware of the vertebrae above that. So you're aware that the vertebrae are on the back side of the body. And then you can start to become aware of the relationship of those vertebrae, those bones, with the soft tissue of the abdomen. So notice that your abdomen on the front has a relationship to the vertebrae on the back, and start to be curious about that relationship. So does the belly, does the abdomen need to be doing anything, making any effort in order to allow those bones to be stacked vertically? So be aware of what you're doing in the abdomen. Can the abdomen release in order to allow the bones to stack? Now, you might be surprised by the way in which the abdomen releases. So start to be aware of the vertebrae as they're stacking and allowing for there to be space between the vertebrae, because there is space between them. And then become aware as you're moving up the spine that as you reach the mid back, that you start to encounter the ribs. So the ribs connect to either side of the vertebrae of the thoracic spine. And they wrap around to the front. So now you start to have this image of the bones where you start to realize that there's the pelvis at the base, and then the vertebrae of the lower back where there's just soft tissue in the front that can all be released. And then when you reach the thoracic, again, you start to encounter more bones, these ribs that form the rib cage. So now you have to be aware of both the front and the back and the bones. And you can start to let the flesh drape over the bones. So you don't need to be lifting anything in the chest or in the upper back. You can just let that drape, but be aware of allowing the abdomen to remain soft. So you have this awareness in your mind of the bones, the pelvis, the vertebrae of the lower back, and then the thoracic vertebrae with the rib cage. And as you allow the flesh of the chest to drape heavily over the rib cage itself actually lifts, making more space in the abdomen for the soft tissue of the abdomen and all the organs in there so that they're not all cramped. So then you can become aware of your breathing. And notice if there is more space in the abdomen now for the breath to move. Is the abdomen, you have a sense of the abdomen being longer taller. And be aware of how the breathing can become so free that there's no sense of any restriction. So what I mean by that is notice where it is that you encounter the restriction in the breath and how habitually you accommodate that by straining, trying harder. And instead of trying harder, just be aware of where that restriction is and how it is that you can soften that. So notice in the lower back or in the mid back, when you breathe, is there squeezing? Is there any uncomfortable sensation? And wherever you begin to encounter just the very beginning of that, soften. See that you don't have to do that. It's possible to let that become gentler. So the breath itself actually is showing you how to align the bones. When the bones are aligned, the breath flows effortlessly, pleasurably. There's no sense of strain in it because the bones, the structure is holding and supporting all of the weight of the body. And so there's no strain to be encountered, meaning the soft tissue is soft. It's not squeezing, so you won't experience that squeezing, tensing, burning, discomfort. So when you inhale, let the inhalation be full and satisfying and yet gentle so that there's no strain involved. Don't push through anything. Don't try to force the breath. Let the breath be gentle and yet complete, which means you have to be aware of where the squeezing, where the tension, where the restriction is, and be responsive, softening that. And then on the exhalation, you can continue to allow that same softness. So there may be a tendency, an impulse to reassert the habits of squeezing, of tensing. And be aware so that you don't reassert them. Let that same release continue through the entire exhalation. So the exhalation shouldn't be forced either. The habit of forced inhalation and exhalation is because we are in the habit of holding all of this tension in the soft tissue of the body. But when we allow the bones to support the weight of the body, then the soft tissue is soft and everything can move without any need to strain. Now, as you do this, you are likely to encounter what you could call emotional or other type of content. Sometimes thoughts like, this is hard, or I can't, or this is pointless, or I'll never make it, or all kinds of little programs that are in there. And those programs are they go hand in hand with the habits of tension. So as you're breathing in this way, just be aware of those things. And there may be sensations that go along with that. Sensations such as sense of rising or falling, or expansion or contraction, or burning, or coldness, or tingling. All kinds of things are possible. And these sensations and these thoughts and perhaps the images that arise, just be aware of them, and you can start to see how this programming has been running your life. Because every time you encounter the programming, you just do whatever it tells you to do. Whatever you are conditioned to do in reaction. And it's almost entirely unconscious, but now you can become conscious of it. So just be aware. Be aware of those habits, the habits of anger, discouragement, impatience, frustration, judgment, and see how the indulgence of those habits has only served to keep you stuck in the same habits. So if you ever have a sense that you're stuck, that things aren't changing, that it's all kind of just repetitive, then you would be partially correct. And that is what you can witness here. So when you witness that, you get unstuck. So it's a fairly exciting endeavor. And don't get stuck in a new habit or a new pattern of thinking, this is it, I've got it. Now I know the right way. Now I know how to sit. Now I know how to breathe. Just be continuing to be aware of the experience and be aware of the bones, be aware of the pelvis. That, again, back to the idea of this cairn, stack of stones. So is that base stone at rest? Is it balanced? Are you squeezing something under that stone? Let that stone come to rest. And each time you become aware of the habits of squeezing and straining and restriction and limitation, just be aware of the thought, the sensation, the habit there. Notice how it's familiar. It's the narrative of your life. Life is too hard. I can't. I'll never make it. I'm a loser. I'm not good enough. Life's not safe. It's too scary. I can't do it yet. I've got to wait until things are okay. I have to prove myself. All of these kinds of programs that are running our lives, and you can be witness to them. And when I say witness, I mean you're witness to the entire complex, the entire constellation. So you can actually see, what is this? There's the thought. There's the physical squeezing or tensing. There's the repository of memories to support that belief. A projection of those into the future. Now, as you continue to be aware increasingly of the bones and how the bones are just aligned and stacked and the amount of effort is decreasing, then you can perhaps start to be aware of something new, some new possibility, so that rather than the repetitive history being the dominant force that projects into the future, you can start to be aware of yourself in this new, stable, aligned sense of yourself, so that you're actually able to respond rather than react. So now, whatever is actually happening, you can begin to be more patient and responsive. So as you are aware now of this ongoing tendencies of these impulses to arise, rather than reacting to them, because every single one is a major disturbance, you can just start to recognize, oh, there's another little impulse, and there's another impulse, and there's another impulse. And each impulse is like a bubble. So you can imagine bubbles in water, and those bubbles are rising. So before, it was like the the pot was at this rolling boil. Every arising impulse, everything that occurred was this major disturbance. We had no balance, nothing, no stability, no sense of poise. Now, perhaps as you're continuing to be aware of the bones aligned, and you're aware of these impulses that arise, these impulses are hopefully more like little bubbles. So kind of works its way through, and there's this subtle little sense of disturbance or agitation, something moving, but it doesn't throw you off completely. So you can just be more and more present to it, more aware. And each impulse that arises, like that little bubble, it's releasing something so that you can then be even more aware of the bones. So you're aware of yourself through the bones. So you're aware of the skull and the vertebrae of the neck and the thoracic vertebrae with the rib cage and the vertebrae of the lower back all the way down to the tailbone, and then the pelvis at the right side and the left side as your base, like that stone that's fully at rest. So you're just noticing how much more at rest that stone is, that pelvis. So before, when everything was a disturbance, use a different metaphor now, it's like we were in a storm, we were in a ship at sea, and there was a storm, we were being tossed about, every little thing would fling us far in one direction and then another. There was no stability. Everything was stormy, turbulent. We were in this emergency crisis. But now it's like the clouds have parted and sun is shining and everything is calm. So now we can actually begin to introduce some intention. Before we were just in reaction. Now we can introduce an intention. So notice again the bones, and then notice that all around the bones you've got this soft tissue, the flesh of the body. And let that flesh be draped over the bones. And then inside of the torso are all of these vital organs. And we can start to introduce an intention now that we have this stability. And that intention is for these organs to be enlivened, balanced, harmonious. So the bones are taking the weight of the body, which means that the soft tissue can be soft, which means that the viscera, all of the inner body, can be also relaxed and start to be well organized. So you can start to just allow everything to occupy its optimal space. So have that intention. And we'll just go through some of those organs. So bring your attention to the kidneys. So there's a kidney on the left side and a kidney on the right side, and you'll find them in the back of the body. In the lower part of the torso, below the rib cage. And have your awareness there, and just soften and invite with your intention that the kidneys can occupy their optimal spaces and that there's a freedom for them to function well. So have your attention there and just release any residual gripping or squeezing around the kidneys. And just direct your loving intention there. So send with your intention, send a blessing to the kidneys. And really feel that area being released. Feel that area becoming buoyant, being filled with that healthy kidney energy. Notice how that changes everything. Notice how when you really let that area be filled with that healthy kidney energy, you can start to feel the whole body start to reorganize. So it's not just the kidneys help support everything in the body. Then you can bring your attention to the liver, which is in the upper right portion of the abdomen. And similarly here, just have your intention, direct your loving intention to allow the liver to occupy its optimal area and to bless it with healthy liver energy so that you can start to really actually feel that part of your body become more vibrant, which means you have to let go of the inner squeezing. Let that part of your body actually be free so that you can allow the liver to really occupy that space in a good, vibrant way. Maybe you can even start to feel the energy flowing in these parts of your body, through the kidneys and in the liver. You might feel that in any number of ways. It could be very, very subtle. or it could be not so subtle. You might feel it as a vibration or a tingling or it's just a sense of light or a sense of buoyancy. Then bring your attention to the spleen and the stomach on the left side of the abdomen. And direct your loving intention to allow for the stomach and the spleen to occupy their optimal places. Let them be filled with healthy energy so that they can function well. And really feel how that area of your body can be filled with that healthy energy so that you can release all of the unnecessary tension there. And then bring your attention to your heart. And with your loving intention, allow the heart to occupy its optimal space and fill the heart with healthy energy. And really feel that. Just allow yourself to let go of the restriction around the heart. Let that part of your body be filled with that healthy energy and feel it. Feel how it dissolves the restriction and how it makes that part of your body resilient and buoyant. And then bring your attention to your lungs on both sides of the chest. And direct your intention to allow them to occupy their optimal space and to be filled with healthy energy. And just as we've done with the other organs, really feel that. So it's something that you can actually feel. You have to really be willing to allow that. And when you do, you can feel this shift so that perhaps subtly or perhaps not so subtly, you really start to feel how the lungs, the right side and the left side, become more buoyant, more elastic, less rigid. So then notice how you are sitting. Notice how you're breathing. And whatever your experience is, recognize that you can choose to give thanks for this experience because this experience offers you exactly what it is that you need. So you may have judgments about the experience. You may judge it as good, or you may judge it as bad. You may judge it as desirable, or you may judge it as undesirable. You may judge that you are succeeding, or you may judge that you're failing. But whatever the experience is, it offers you something when you are willing to let go of the judgments and just to receive it as it is, because this is when you come into this kind of alignment, when you allow for your bones to take the weight of the body, when you allow yourself to be supported rather than to be straining, then you meet everything that you have suppressed or avoided, which is to say, everything that has real value for you. Because we're not in this life just to have an easy time. We're not in this life just to have pleasure. We're in this life for exactly what it is that we experience, for exactly what comes to us, for exactly everything as it is in our experience, not in somebody else's experience. And so we can give thanks or we can judge. So whatever your experience, I encourage you to give thanks and to acknowledge that this experience offers something of great value to you, something that allows you to give your gifts in this world, something that shows you something essential of yourself, something that actually answers the questions that you have, that answers your prayers, the prayer of who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? If we just allow ourselves to receive, then we receive all that we need. It's always presented to us through our own experience. So you don't have to have a particular experience. You don't have to have an experience that you judge as a good experience or a bad experience or a positive experience or a negative experience. It doesn't matter. It's just that you're having this experience and that you're present to it. And the more that you receive that, the more you can feel the power of that, the pure energy of that as yourself. So notice that pure energy as yourself. Notice the impulses and the temptation to judge it, to label it. This is bad, this is good. I should change it, I should not change it, I should hold on to it. All of these judgments, and see where they get you, which is to say, nowhere. So just receive the awesome power that is here for you, this energy of yourself. And let this energy flow through your whole self. Let it flow through your emotional body, your physical body, your mental body, all aspects of yourself, so that all aspects of yourself are balanced, connected, harmonious with this pure energy. Just let it flow through all parts of you so that you don't have to waste so much time differentiating. And let that pure energy flow as a blessing from your inner self into your so-called outer experience, so that you can now begin to bless your home, bless your loved ones, your family, your friends, your neighbors. Bless any animals or plants that you may care for. Bless your country. Bless all countries. Bless all governments so that they may work for the good of people. Bless all of the inhabitants of this earth. Bless the earth herself. And when you're ready, become aware of your physical body again. Become aware of the top of your head. Become aware of your left ear and your right ear and your nose and your tongue and your chin and your throat and your neck. Be aware of the shoulders and the upper arms and the lower arms and the hands and fingers. Be aware of the chest and the upper back and the abdomen and the lower back. be aware of the buttocks and the thighs and the knees and the lower legs and the feet and the toes and the soles of the feet. And then move your fingers. And then when you're ready, slowly begin to open the eyes. So thank you for joining me today. It was an interesting day. Very high energy. Glad to hear it. So for those who would like to stick around for Q&A, we'll do that. And for everybody else, I'll end this recording momentarily for the sake of those who watch us on YouTube. This is we'll see if I even upload it to YouTube. This is a very high energy. I think it's good though. I mean, I know it's good, so I think I'll upload it. So for those who are watching on YouTube, and for all the rest of us, just trust in the goodness of your path, your life. It's not a mistake. And you're not alone. There is an intelligence, an organizing intelligence. And you can trust that. You can trust that it is responsive. That's why you're having these experiences, and it's not to punish you. You know, I mean, sometimes it seems like that. Sometimes we have those thoughts like, I must be being punished. But the experiences are never to reward you nor to punish you. They're the answers to your prayers. So the clearer you are in those prayers, the more clearly you can receive the support. Because when you really recognize your truest prayer is the fulfillment of your purpose, peace, truth, then you can receive everything that happens in that consciousness. So then you can recognize whatever my judgment might be. judgment. I've got plenty of judgments. This shouldn't be happening. It's a good one. You can recognize, regardless of the judgment, that whatever is happening is exactly right. It is exactly perfect, and it's not a punishment, and it's not a reward. It's offering you yourself in your fullness. So if you, like all of us, have been in denial of your fullness, then it's saying, no, here you go, fullness. So you can trust in that. Trust that whatever happens is part of that healing process. And when things happen and you start thinking, oh, I'm failing, or I can't believe this is happening. I thought I was doing well, and then this is happening. This must be something bad. Remember that it's not bad. We're receiving what it is that we've denied, because there's a gift in that for us. So just have faith. It's so simple. Okay, so thanks for joining, and I'm going to end this recording. So for those of you who are staying on, be prepared, because we're going to have an announcement.